Ascot on Ryanair's low-fare flights to Luton, Gatwick and Stansted.
Tonight will be mainly dry with clear spells, lows of 7 to 10 degrees. Now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette Labs. Get the ultimate shave or your money back. Neon Night Edition available now.
This is News Talk.
Hello there, you're welcome along. So Monday's Off the Ball coming at you. The rights and wrongs of GAA GA have dominated the news cycle for the past 24 hours. The Taoiseach amongst those speaking out about it now. Malachy Clerkin with his thoughts at 7:30. Mal was also in Limerick yesterday for, to witness an extraordinary performance by the Clifford brothers under the most awful of circumstances. So Malachy Clerkin on the way 7:30. Monday Night Rugby, Fiona Hayes, Jerry Thornley, 3 provinces in the URC semi-finals. Rugby's golden age continues, much to Donal Óg's frustration. Can't be stopped, including Leinster, Munster. And 3 Premier League games today shaping the relegation fight in a big way. Pat Nevin with us after 9. 53106 is the text number. We're at Off the Ball on Twitter. Young Michael McCarthy on his holidays. Best of luck to him. Arthur O'D in you come of a Monday. You're very welcome. Hello.
Hey, Joe.
Also of the New York Times from time to time, but he'd rather not talk about that.
Yeah.
Richie McCormack is with us. Hello.
I hope Mick's not anywhere in the locale for his holidays, because there's weather with a capital W happening outside my window right now. We've had thunder and lightning the last couple of minutes, and that has parlayed into hailstones and now just rain, which is a bit disappointing. So hopefully Mick's not somewhere in Dublin.
There's a storm a brewing for hurling people. Mick.
That's a beautiful segue.
I did see a quote tweet of the exchange of the video, and it was fair play to Donal Óg on his last ever Sunday game appearance. It was good. So his issue, I'm sure you've seen this, everybody's seen this at this stage, but his issue is less the notion of pay-per-view GAA. His issue is more the choice of game on GAA GA. Munster Hurling effectively being exploited to get this joint venture off the ground was very much his sentiment. He has looked at Clare Limerick and now Cork Tipperary the last 2 weekends, and there are very few high-profile hurling weekends in the calendar, and he feels by next weekend 4 of the biggest Munster Hurling Championship matches will have been on pay-per-view, and frankly the GAA needs to have a think about what it's doing when it comes to hurling. Completely unloved, uncared for, it's failing hurling was very much his sentiment. Very impassioned, strident views. What was your instinct watching it, Arthur?
The instinct.
Yeah. Agree, disagree?
Absolutely agree. An instinct. Instinct, there's something about the way that it was portrayed. There's like, oh God, he's right.
I agreed on instinct too.
It's just, they're killing it. They're absolutely killing it. And then, I suppose on slightly more mature reflection, I don't know, because I don't know what the... I don't know what they're striving for or what the ideal situation is. Is it just to get... Is the ideal, say, for a Munster hurling match to become something akin to a Ireland Six Nations game where it gets like almost 1 million views? It's this nationwide kind of event, because that'll never happen. And I don't know if, and Malachy will talk about this later, how authentic the intention is to
grow the game.
Oh,
really? You're in that camp too?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, so instinctively I was with them. I thought, bloody hell, it is a disgrace.
It's a wonderful orator.
Yeah. And then John Fogarty did a great piece where he broke down in the Examiner just the take Munster hurling, for instance. So by the end of the group stages, all 10 matches will have been available. This is Munster hurling, by the way. So all 10 matches will have been available live, either on RTE or on GAA GA, and there will be an even split between the two. So a touch lopsided at the moment for sure, hence the frustration, but actually in the round, on mature reflection, when we reflect on the season, there will be plenty of hurling on RTE, on free-to-air television. And what's more, the piece has really highlighted the fact that if hurling people aren't happy now, there is a storm a-brewing. Yeah. Because football people in a couple of weeks' time are going to flip out when they realise that the weekend of May 20th, 21st, Kerry against Mayo and Galway against Tyrone will be the preserve of GAA GA. There will not be, imagine this, Richie, there will not be a single football match televised on free-to-air television that weekend. Meanwhile, On RTE, the hurling will be to the fore. Clare against Cork and Limerick against Tipperary will very much dominate the free-to-air landscape. And it is the same story the following week, May 27, May 28th. Dublin will play either Cork or Roscommon. Derry or Armagh will play Monaghan. Again, they'll be very much behind the paywall on GAA Go, whereas RTE will have a second successive Sunday very much dedicated to live hurling, and it'll mark the conclusion of the group stages of the provincial championship. So, the real do or die games. So I think, to be fair, those points weren't really made last night. And so last night I came away going, geez, it is a disgrace. But I'm not sure it's quite the disgrace that I felt initially.
Yeah, I'm sure Cusack will back down on his opinion as well when he realises that too. I'm 100% certain of it. It's an odd argument for him to make, because I don't know, much to Arthur's point there. What does growing hurling entail? Like, what's a point at which everybody who's banging that drum is actually happy to stop banging it and is pleased with it? Because he seemed to suggest last night that it was RTE's fault that the game is not growing, which is odd, because it's not their duty to grow games. It's their duty. I thought it was more
GA. He was pointing the finger at.
When he's bringing in stuff like the coverage of rugby, and
that's true.
And his conversations with Declan McBennett over the amount of rugby being shown, etc. Like, that's a complete non-argument, and it's one you're always going to lose. It's silly. The GAA are in a really lucky position, because considering the fact that there's such a fragmented market, that there's 32 counties notionally, that they get any money at all for GAA rights is a miracle, because there's no market for it there in terms of if you put it out to market forces. There's only RTE and Virgin Media, and then laterally Sky, who bid for it. You see other sporting events, and the League of Ireland has been obviously suffered this in the last while, where they get no money as regards screening of matches. There's other events that are worldwide events. You'll see like rowing stuff that would appear from time to time, or swimming events that will be taken in as part of Eurovision contracts that they don't have to pay for either. So the fact that they're paying for GAA rights at all is odd, and the fact that they're allowed to have a monopoly on it, which is what the RTE GAA Go split is. It's a monopoly by one media organisation on GAA rights. That's probably something that would need to be looked at, rather than the balance or people totting up hurling matches versus football matches being screened on free-to-air TV. The fact that there was an offer from another broadcaster which offered to screen more games on actual television versus an online system for which the country isn't prepared, because there's really poor broadband in the majority of this country. That's the decision that needs looking at. But it's not within television companies' remit to promote hurling or any other arm of the GAA.
There is such an interesting almost dichotomy when it comes to hurling, Arthur, and I'll mention it to Mal later on. We spoke to Mal before coming on air, so you'll hear it, but it is the most celebrated, storied pursuit in the association. Artistry, it's like the drumbeat of our soul. It's part of our psyche. It's talked about by both football and hurling people as the greatest sport in the world. And yet, on the other side of that fence, it's only played to a certain standard in very, very few pockets of the country. And hurling people seem to feel like, if you take Donal Óg as like a sense of the temperature, they seem to feel like this grievance that actually we're completely unloved. They're not helping us grow up in Crow Park HQ, and we've been failed. Like, it's shrinking, not growing. Amazing. It was a kind of an interesting sense from him, I thought, and I presume lots of hurling people feel that way.
It's very hard to wrap your head around, and it's funny, something Jackie Tyrrell touched on that doesn't get talked about a lot as well, is that it's such a tiny community, and it's very insular. And I suspect that it becomes quite easy if someone does have a grievance, that it can be quickly magnified within that small little area. Because, like, I know exactly what you're saying in terms of, like, I don't think anything matches high level entertainment hurling when it's played really well by the elite, the top of the top.
Yeah.
But when you drop down beyond that, it's really not. It's not a very. You don't want to be harsh, but it's not nearly as enjoyable a sport to watch.
Yeah.
So really, like, when we consider hurling, what it is, like, it is just what you're saying. Like, and even like it's that small little thing that most of us know. It's very, very small. Like, we'll know about 6 or 7 teams, and then a certain number of players from each of those teams, and that for the majority of people is hurling.
Yeah.
Now, these guys obviously see an awful lot more of it, being involved in clubs and everything else, and they have a far greater sense of what it's like. But I kind of suspect they're so enmeshed in it that, like I'd say, when you're in a community that small, it's very easy, to feel like everyone's against you all the time.
Although, and it's a point Mal makes, actually, so I'm absolutely borrowing it from him, but it's just so true. Hurling has something to answer for when it comes to its treatment of its own league, in that it was, just a couple of years ago, amazingly tense.
Yeah.
And then hurling folk got together and said, this is far too much stressful business for us.
Yeah.
Let's just 1A, 1B, let's not have a premium on relegation and promotion. Let's just calm it down. And now the league, which incidentally is free to air right across the campaign, you have literally on RTE television, on their highlight show, like I vividly remember, it might have been Donal Óg, but certainly it was Liam Sheedy, maybe it was Jackie Tyrrell, I can't remember, but like after a game saying, frankly, there's training sessions with more intensity than these games. Like, no one's taking this seriously. It's a waste of time. But here it is on television anyway. Like, hurling would almost want to have a think, well, maybe we should be delivering a bit more when it comes to the league before we're jumping up and down about lack of coverage.
But there's an innate sort of small-mindedness to it, which is quite funny considering what I suppose Donal Óg is looking for in this scenario. It is
Munster Championship.
It's so small-minded. Like, this is, and I don't mean that in a negative way. They have what they have and they do it really well. But there's not, I don't, like, again, there's no emphasis to grow the game and make it like a truly national sport like Gaelic football is, for instance. They don't want any. I don't think anyone wants any part of that.
Do you not think so?
No, I don't think so. I don't.
Why?
Think
they don't want Kerry to get good at hurling.
I don't think there's any evidence of that at all. It's like you think about, like, there's one team in Connacht that competes at that level, and no one else is even close. Now, there's reasons for that, and that's not necessarily the fault of hurling as a game in itself. Whatever kind of all sorts of not economic reasons, but social reasons for that. But I don't ever. I don't know what evidence there is. And maybe it's not in their interests, but that counties would want more counties.
You think hurling folk are quite happy with the number of elite?
Oh, I think so. I think so. I don't think that there's any great hunger for other counties to improve.
Okay.
And I like,
but at the same time, put our jewel in the crown Munster hurling on the TV now.
It's even Jackie Tyrrell last night talking about the Joe McDonagh Cup, a brilliant competition, and it is brilliantly competitive. But it's
not setting our hair on fire.
No, and it's not like it's kind of only ever spoken about in terms of this will actually surprise you, But it's not. I don't know. I just feel that there's an odd thing with hurling compared to other sports where the distinction in the standard is so stark as you move down the pyramid that it ceases to almost become the same sport. Like, it's completely different.
Yeah. Well, I was certainly, and I know we've got to get a move on here because there's amazing Premier League action happening as we speak, courtesy of the Coronation. And by the way, that was one of the great over the weekend. And they showed 4 hours of the Coronation. You kidding me? And they show hurling. But I was just struck. It's amazing sometimes. You just assume that, like, I thought all was well. I thought, well,
what that?
But on their part, and then suddenly this like I said, the most celebrated pursuit in the association type thing, and then you hear nobody loves it. Like, we're victims here. I guess everyone has a bit of that sometimes. I was just struck by that sense of grievance.
I also
realised it was there.
Wonder, and I don't want to. I wonder it's not specific. I don't think it's necessarily a conscious thing. But from, say, Donal Óg's perspective as a Cork legend and Cork icon, I kind of wonder how much do problems seem like greater problems when your county isn't winning All Irelands. And I don't mean that in a specific kind of, he's bringing this up because Cork are winning All Ireland, but I feel you have a greater amount of time to think about everything else when you're not necessarily focused on that. I don't know that, but I think
that's a bit harsh.
It's not. I just feel that you're more likely to see problems in things if your county isn't successful. Like, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I don't know if the same emphasis. I don't know. Maybe that can't. I
think if Cork had done 3 in a row,
but you never
felt it should have been.
You never hear Kerry giving out about the problems in Munster football. It's not their concern.
Wait until Kerry Galway's on GAA GA in a few weeks.
Yeah, well, that'll be something different. But
we should kick on. Malachy Clerkin will join us 7:30. Very curious for your texts. One on Just GA Go generally, paywall generally, like €79 for 38 games. I appreciate lots of people, €79 is too much money, but in the context of what most of us are paying for the likes of Sky or BT, €2 a game, high production quality, I think the price point is acceptable, but a lot of people just will not accept pay-per-view in the world of GA. And then secondly, your thoughts on the hurling football divide. The news round is brought to you with Gillette Labs. Get the ultimate shave or your money back. Neon Night Edition is available now. 53106, by the way, for your text messages. Richie, on account of the coronation, we have Bumper Monday, and it's been, you don't want to say decisive, but very significant in the relegation fight.
Certainly is, and cheers to King Chuck for all of that. It is into the final 4 minutes at the Amex. It's Brighton 1, Everton 4. Everton raced into a 3-0 lead there in jig time. They're 3-0 up with 10 minutes to go to half time. Abdoulaye Doucouré getting 2 of those goals, an own goal by Jordan Steele in goal. And Dwight McNeil made it 4 before Alexis McAllister pulled one back for Brighton with 11 minutes to go. Evan Ferguson was sent on as a half-time substitute in an effort to rescue that game for the hosts, but it looks like Everton will be climbing away from the bottom 3 tonight. Leicester inched closer to it. They were 3-0 down by half-time away to Fulham this evening, 4-0 in arrears 6 minutes after the restart. Harvey Barnes, though, scored twice to keep things interesting, while James Maddison netted a penalty and Jamie Vardy had another saved. Leicester boss Dean Smith says their first-half performance was unacceptable.
We didn't start the game with enough urgency, and we've given really poor goals away. They've scored direct from a free kick, which is crossed into the box, and we don't deal with this. We turn the ball over and they break, and we've still got a 4v2, and they get a free shot on goal. And then the third goal, they cut open, another turnover ball, cut inside us and scoring again from inside our penalty box. So first half is what killed us. You can't give 3-goal leads at this level and expect to come back. We showed some spirit. I would expect that, because they're not a bad group of lads. Maybe some of them are struggling mentally with the pressures, but that's for me and the coaching staff to sort out and make sure we get the right team.
Still haven't.
Elsewhere.
I still haven't got used to Dean Smith, Leicester manager. I'm sure, I think if you put a gun to my head on the street, who's the Leicester manager? Go. I'd be like, not sure.
And seeing John Terry is a stark reminder that he's there as well when they were talking to him on the sideline. And then you've got Craig Shakespeare sitting in behind them, and they're overseeing this absolute shambles that was their first hour pretty much at Craven Cottage today. They were very, very, very poor.
Must have been.
And looked like a side sinking.
And then Everton 4-1 away to Brighton. Did not see that coming, and it gets more nervy again, 8 o'clock.
Yeah, the bottom 2 meeting at the City Ground. Nottingham Forest up against Southampton. Gavin Bazunu once again on the Saints bench, and Alex McCarthy preferred in goal. Coventry and Sunderland, meanwhile, have taken the last available playoff places in the Championship after a dramatic final afternoon there. Millwall were 3-1 up at half-time at home to Blackburn and looked to be good for a playoff spot, but wound up losing 4-3. Sunderland snatched 6th place courtesy of a 3-0 win at Preston. Coventry held on for a 1-1 draw at Middlesbrough to finish 5th, and those sides will meet again, funnily enough, in the playoff semi-finals. Sunderland will be at home to Luton for their first leg.
We have Alan Milton of the GAA talking.
Yeah, the head of GAA Go believes the right balance has been struck between free-to-air and pay-as-you-go matches. Noel Quinn, the GAA's marketing and broadcast senior manager, was speaking today at the launch of the Tailteann Cup. He responded to criticism of the service, which has snowballed overnight. Quinn did reveal that RTE passed on the opportunity to screen the recent Clare Limerick game after it was moved from a Sunday to a Saturday to accommodate the Great Limerick Run down there. Meanwhile, the GAA's Director of Communications, Alan Milton, says paywalls are a necessary evil.
We've got bills to pay like everybody else, and if we want to finance and we want to push the GA forward in the months and years ahead, we quite simply have to generate revenue, and one of the ways we do that, first of all, is through attendances, which are the most important part, but secondly then is for people who are willing to watch the games at home who perhaps can't travel or it's just too far and it's not realistic. So I'm not too sure how the GA could function if all of our games were free to air, because there simply isn't enough. There aren't enough entities on the island who are willing to take our games and broadcast them free to air to audiences.
I think that's pretty fair, to be honest. I would accept that. Huge reaction, as you might expect. Donal Óg is not talking about GAA coverage, only hurling coverage. Anyone thinks it helps promote hurling by having Limerick, Clare and Cork Tip behind a paywall is crazy. There are only about 10 real top-level hurling games each year, so hiding some of these is plainly wrong. Yeah, I mean, like I said, half and half RTE and GAA Go for the Munster Championship, so we've had a lopsided start, but I think it may well even out on balance. And in a couple of weeks' time, when big football matches are on GAA GA and hurling matches are to the fore on RTE, it'll be a different story. I do, I must say, I know Mal is of a similar vein to you, like maybe hurling counties are happy enough with the status quo. I do think when Donal Óg talks last night about growing the game, he does mean that sincerely. And I do think, Liam Sheedy spent time up in Antrim a couple of years ago trying to help there. I do really feel that hurling folk in the main would love to see other counties come up to their level. It would be better for everyone.
Maybe, but all I would say about that, and you would never, there's no disingenuity to that, but hurling people, or those hurling communities are very good at integrating other hurling communities already. So you see that thing that happens in Antrim, but there's a fierce hurling community in Antrim to begin with.
I take the point.
And it kind of, that's my only thing with it. I'm not sure, coming from Sligo where hurling is really low on the totem pole, it was kind of, as you were saying, talking to Malachy, that a few people came in, they were really invested in it, and the stock of the place rose. 2 promotions up to Christy Ring, you're playing awfully because they're changing fortunes, and then people move on and it just dips back down again because there's no structure in place whatsoever. It's not that won't change. I just think.
Well, that's the argument there from Cusack is like that these games need to be screened to grow the game. There's really deeper and a lot more hard work and a lot more entrenchment needs to be done in those counties to grow the game. And it's not like waving a magic wand and screening Clare and Limerick doesn't suddenly make, Sligo, or doesn't suddenly make Roscommon, or doesn't suddenly make, any of the other weaker counties in Leinster any better.
Doesn't hurt,
that requires
I take the point. I think you're right, but it doesn't hurt.
There's so much more work there, Joe. But I know it doesn't hurt, but there's so much more work to be done there. And it's just an easy win to kind of point that out and say, oh, well, this would help grow the game. Of course it would. Anything would. But you need a lot more work and a lot more people on the ground to actually try and grow the game in any meaningful sense in any of these counties.
To be fair to Donal, he did take aim at the GAA on that issue as well about when it comes to growing the game. So he's not here to defend
it. And that's a long-term thing. That's a long-term thing. That will take 10, 15, 20 years in some counties' instances to get them up to snuff, if that's what you actually want to do.
We are pretty much against the clock here, Rich. Is there any last story you want to bring people up to speed on?
The Munster story is actually a pretty sad one for them, because they'll be without a host of key players for Saturday's URC semi-final with Leinster at the Aviva. RG Snyman, Calvin Nash, Malachi Fekitoa and Conor Murray all suffered head injuries in the quarter-final win away to Glasgow on Saturday evening. The quartet will follow return-to-play protocols this week, and they're definitively out of the semi-final against Leinster at the Aviva. Peter O'Mahony's participation hinges on the outcome of a scan today on an elbow injury he suffered in the Scots-Toon win. Meanwhile, Dermot Barron is having a shoulder injury assessed as the week goes on, and a call on his availability will be made closer to Friday.
Okay, we'll talk to Jerry Thornley and Fiona Hayes after 8 o'clock about that. Pat Nevin with us after 9 on all the Premier League action today and the weekend that was. And up next, we're going to talk to Malachy Clerk.